Are you a conscious leader or a visionary or a thought leader in this world? And would you like to create some of your own content in collaboration with us? If so, please head over to theatlasofconsciousness.com to check out more of our video and production content. We would love to work with you to get more of these new Earth messages out into the world. Thank you once again for listening. And now, on to the episode.
But when you realize that they are, like, all my fears, all my traumas, like, they're a part of me. They made me who I am, for better or for worse. And once you kind of realize that, you hold that space for yourself. The space of just being. Which is incredibly important and incredibly powerful. That's what the other side is.
This is the Atlas Emotion Series, where we share edge of the earth ideas for a new world. Okay, we are recording on all devices. Okay, I just want to say, this is my podcast and I forget one. Here we go.
Maybe I should conduct the interview.
Yeah, you could introduce it. Hey, that would be fun. You should
What do I say?
Hi, my name is Ella, and this is the Atlas Emotion Series podcast. You could.
Hi, my name is Ella, and this is the Atlas Emotion Series podcast.
Just kidding. My name is Ella, and welcome to the Atlas Emotion Series podcast. I'm here with my great friend Cole Jones. Hello.
Hello, that's me. I'm Cole.
Hello, Cole. I'm glad that we've established that the other person in the room is Cole, because that would be weird if it wasn't.
Among other things, I am Cole, yes.
This episode is awesome because it's called Core Truth. And basically Cole's on here because Cole is just some sort of epic embodiment of what we're going to be talking about all of today. And it's this essence and this feeling that we all have a core truth inside of ourselves. And how do we tap into that? And how do we expand that? And how do we deal with the challenges of life that come with expressing our core truth? So this episode is going to be all about this sense of condensed energy to core truth. That is that just before you kind of break into a new core truth, you can experience a really tightened version of your energy. That we all have a true core energy, and that there is this sense that people's core energy remains the same, and what changes is everything around the outside. And if you could describe yourself with one word, my friends played this game with me. We're not really strangers. And the word they picked was undying. That basically through any activity I engage in, I have this quality of undyingness. So think about that for yourself. If there's one quality that could describe you, that could be an indication of what your core energy is. And that, the significance of this core energy is that on the other side of things is you experience light yourself at an incomprehensibly big level. And this is where we're going to be talking about, supernovas, the feeling of the stars and galaxies, how we as energy, those things are a reflection of who we truly are. That's why I'm excited. Like, this stuff is really what I get off on. So I'm really, really excited. And this is Cole. I thank you for coming today.
It's okay.
Cole is like a shaman. As you can tell by the people that are watching, you can tell by what he's wearing. And we debated whether we should have his shaman stick in the background, but we decided against it. Can you introduce a little bit about yourself and why did I bring you onto an episode about core truth?
That's such a big question. Oh my God. I think because I'm on a journey of my core truth in its entirety. That's it, really. Oh, everything that encompasses.
So Cole's on here because of kind of a few different things. It's this feeling of a huge embodiment of core truth, but in a way, he holds people to become their own core truths. And that was done first by his own embodiment. Cole wasn't born as Cole. Cole was born as Chloe.
I was born as a female, and I lived 31, I think I'm 31 years of my life as a female, not even knowing that I was a male, just not knowing who I was. And then, one day in a meditation in the back of a taxi, it came to me like a slap in the face, and I just knew that was me. Not even that I was just a man, I just knew that was me. And that was the piece that I'd been missing, like, my entire life.
So what did it feel like before this discovery and now embodiment of that perspective, that you are a man, that is who you are?
It felt like being lost. Like if you were to wander into bushland that you didn't recognize.
And can you talk to me a little bit about how you saw yourself in the mirror? Because you've said some pretty poetic things about that.
Yeah, okay. When you're in a dream and you meet someone that you know this person, they could be your lover in a dream, or even your parents or your best friend or something, and you know who they are, you recognize them in their entirety, you know their face and you know their heart. But then when you wake up, you realize that you've no idea who that was. You can feel them in your heart, but when you see their face, you're like, I don't know who that was. That's what I felt looking in the mirror every day. And I would walk away from the mirror and know myself. But then faced with this face that was not my own, I just was very confused. But I didn't realize that was missing.
So just to elaborate on that as well, I have been challenged by a very similar thing for a long time, for many years. But I would say that sometimes I feel like a girl, sometimes I feel like a guy. And I kind of yearn for someone in my life had similar experiences, of which there was no one to that date that I was close to. And Cole kind of walked into my life when he was about a couple of months into his transition. We were on a film shoot together. And
1 month.
1 month. The incredible thing was that when Cole really came very forward into my life, it sort of in some way instigated like another awakening in me. And I was confronted with a lot of energies that were huge again, which I actually hadn't for a long, long time. And there was something very grounding about having you, because you've really embodied something that I think I hadn't embodied. So it's not even just that Cole has this like strength of having embodied such a big thing. It's that there's a capacity that you hold in just being who you are that allows other people to face themselves, the hard bits of themselves, and be more of who they are. One night, you and I were having a chat. The idea of purpose was raised, and I said, do you think I've found my purpose, to Cole? And Cole said, no, there's this kind of outside expression of purpose, which I think most of our society engages with. And I was definitely one of them. Have I found my purpose by starting the Atlas? Some element of it. But the sense I got from this conversation is that calling or purpose is this deeper thing. It's a sense of embodiment of who you truly are. And then you said something really amazing in that time when we were talking about all this, that I'm not here to change the world as a collective. I'm here to change the world for one person, which basically knocked me off my chair.
Which was dangerous because you were driving.
I was driving. We could have died, but we didn't, which is amazing. And this is what we're talking about, though. This is the nature of core truth. It is so big that it is a kind of a life or death situation in some ways if you're not able to hold it. And that's what this whole episode is about. And that's what the interesting thing is. So what's amazing about what Cole said there is, so if Cole's changing my life to help me embody more of who I am, and then my passion is to do this, to spread media, to share these ideas, like how many lives are changing just by changing my life?
I feel like the secret is to just let people be. There's not like that in and of itself is always enough for anyone to realize who they are. You just have to be. Because in this society, you can't just be. It's wrong. You're not allowed to just be. You're not allowed to be who you are. You have to be who they want you to be. And you live up to this expectation of what people perceive you to be. It's almost like people can't perceive that you change. So you go through your life having friends and family, believing that you are still the same person that you were when you were in your most influential part of their life. And you don't change from that in their head. So you live there. You have to live there because they tell you, oh, you wouldn't do that. You're not like that. This, that, and the other. So then inadvertently you are becoming that thing over and over again. And in that you lose yourself. So it is extremely important for someone to just be. And when you hold that space for someone, they can grow. And that is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to change.
So can you tell me a little bit about that journey with yourself as you made the transition from female to male? Are there some key moments of, I have to hold my beingness right now, that are kind of significant that you could share with us?
I mean, there obviously are. But I do recall there was one time, I just knew what I needed to do. I didn't really, this was much before I was aware of all the things that I'm speaking about now. But there was one moment that comes to mind where I was on the phone to my mother after I'd just come out as trans. But a little bit of a backstory before I get to that was, I'm from Perth originally. I just always felt this need to go somewhere. I don't know where that was, just to go somewhere. So I did. I first went to Asia, but then we came here and I just wanted to settle in Sydney, and I've got no idea why. I do now, but... So I was speaking to my mum on the phone, and she was not happy. She was terrified of my transition because she'd just learned about it. And, she was yelling at me over the phone and screaming. And I just held that space for her because I knew that everything that she was feeling and all of those feelings of fear came from a place of love. And she just wanted the best for me. And, she just didn't know how to support me in that. And I just said to her, because she asked me, why didn't you tell me before? Why didn't I know? Why didn't I see it? And I said to her something that not even I knew to be true. And I just said, I had to leave Perth in order to unlearn all that I knew about myself, in order to know who I really was. And that is pretty much the only moment that I can recall where I had such a profound experience like that.
So how do you feel that was an embodiment of your calling in that moment?
I just knew it to be true. That's it. I would imagine everything that has the embodiment of your calling, you just know it's true.
So cool. Drops the mic.
I mean, I can. It's in front of me. So.
Let's not drop. Let's keep the mics plugged in, because they're important for this podcast. And just to elaborate, so we're talking about core truth, and I think the thing about who we really are is it can be a really scary thing. And just even the other night, you and I were talking about what's on the other side of like the scariest things we can imagine is more of who we are. But yeah, you don't need to say what your scariest thing is, but can you talk about exactly what you meant there by what's on the other side of our scariest thing?
That's such a bigger question.
They're all going to be big. Deal with it.
No, I'm dealing with it, but it's like, all the big and scary things aren't really as big and scary as they seem. And the only reason that they seem big and scary is because we disassociate from them. So they become apart from us, not a part of us. And that's what makes them big and scary. But when you realize that they are, like, all my fears, all my traumas, like, they're a part of me. They made me who I am, for better or for worse. And once you kind of realize that, you hold that space for yourself, the space of just being, which is incredibly important and incredibly powerful. And then that's what the other side is. I'm on that journey now. I think I'm now, only last night, realized one of my biggest traumas. So I'm living with that right here and right now. But if I hadn't have gone through, the vast ocean of trauma that I already had, I wouldn't be ready for this.
When we first met, when we were getting more connected with each other, there was this sense that the space that I occupied was too big for you. And then I had the same feeling for what you occupy. And both of us in some ways are now balancing that out by being in each other's energy all the time. Cole has helped me really. I wouldn't have been able to introduce what I said at the beginning of this. I wouldn't have been able to come out on the Atlas page if it weren't for Cole. And then the ways that my energy is sort of supporting his is that, he's writing a novel now. He's just embodying the space of more art and more expression that wasn't around beforehand. But the interesting thing was the transition point for both of us was in so many ways very fearful. I had a lot of fears come up and I felt like I was almost losing myself. And that's what I've written down here. The energy is so vast, it's like you could almost slip. And before Cole kind of came into my space, there was definitely times where you were going through almost panic attacks of feeling frightened that it was too big. That was the fear. And for me, I was having nightmares. I've had a lot of nightmares through this period as I faced parts of me that were so judgmental toward what I was going through. And so how have both of us, how have we been able to land such a big energy when it's felt too big? And I guess it was starting to recognize, I'm still placing the power outside of myself, and I'm still believing I'm too small for how big this is. The sort of irony that's on the other side is I'm too small to be myself. That's what you're actually saying, but it's so crazy because you do have to face hardcore fears, that the traumas that are in the way of you being yourself. That the belief is I do not have that. So I do not have that power that's outside of me. Someone else or something else has it. And to change that from I do not have that to I have that. And the only thing really is presence. It's presence to, how hardcore these fears are. For me, it's journaling and meditation. And facing those and constantly saying, well, that's a part of me too. That horrifying nightmare, that trauma was a part of me too. And I can hold space for that. Do you want to talk to me a little bit about your journey with the vastness that you've faced as you've taken these next big leaps into quantum leaps almost, into being who you are, more of who you are, facing those tipping points where it's like kind of the negative energy almost congests in a way. And you can feel this wall and you got to go through.
Well, I guess it's just a space of trust. You after and before you realize that this is just all you and it's just a part of you, you just have to trust yourself. Like, yeah, it's terrifying because you know what you faced when you were younger or whenever you faced whatever you did, and it hurts. And there's a pain there because it was horrible. Otherwise it wouldn't be a trauma, right? So you just have to trust that in that space of pain and fear that you are gonna hold yourself, because at that time nobody else did. You have to be that for yourself. And it's coming to that point of self-love and self-trust and self-understanding that really helps you through those spaces. And that's what helps you grow, is being there for you. For you. If you have yourself, nobody else, you don't need anybody else to have you. And that is so powerful. That's where your power is when you hold yourself. You won't know any other power.
I need some more microphones to drop. Okay, so another amazing thing when we were talking about this idea of the energy being so vast is that you mentioned that it's almost like you're walking on mirrors with it. When you're kind of slipping, it's like you're walking on the reflection.
It's funny because I just keep thinking that it's a paradox, because you speak about the vastness and we spoke about the vastness, and it is vast, but it's so vast that it's asphyxiating, and it's just like you just feel this.
Like the vastness is claustrophobic,
Yes.
which is a paradox, isn't it?
It is a paradox.
Yeah,
and it's like the vastness is so claustrophobic that it feels so close. So of course you believe it, right? It surrounds you.
That's an epic. Congratulations for anyone following this far. Because for me, that was like, woof, I really need to get my head around that. But I mean, I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, for me, I think so. My greatest fears have been, have felt like there are things that are way too big for me. And they felt way too big for me that they literally felt like they were crammed up in my body.
But the other side of that is, as you said before, like you're scared of being yourself. And if you're scared of such a big space like that, imagine how big you are. You know? If you feel like you are that vast, that your fear is that vast, like you must be that big, right?
I just feel like I'm in shock every time. You just do this all the time. You just drop this sentence that's hectic, and I can't even, I'm like, whoa, okay. Yes. So we are going to go a little bit deeper into family, because I mean, that it is inevitable for all of us as we take our journey, inevitable for every one of us as we take our journey into core truth, into who we truly are, that, you know, we know this, to have gotten this far, what we are is a huge challenge to the societal structures that we've had up and going for the last, you know, couple of thousand years. And family, in a way, a lot of the time is an embodiment of that. And so there is a difficulty and in basically facing our families and moving away from that and into who we are, and how do we navigate that. So you talked a little bit already, you gave me one example, but I mean, changing from female to male is such an obvious expression of what it looks like to embody your core truth and how everything changes around you. And since we're all in a relationship to each other, it's like, do you want to talk to us a little bit about how you've navigated that change with yourself in relationship to everyone else around you?
Okay, well, I think what helped me and is helping me now to move past, you know, like the belief systems that other people have and the way that they press things upon me, like their opinions or anything else, like their judgments or anything like that, is my belief is that everybody on this planet does the best to their ability of the knowledge that they have. Nobody will intentionally hurt you because they are born cruel. And everybody has their own demons, and everybody's dealing with their own things, and everybody is just a result of that. So when people, you know, I've been called sick because I'm trans, that I'm sick. And I can look at that person in understanding and love and just say, it's okay, you just don't understand. That's fine. You know, so what then? Right? It's my job to educate them that I'm not sick. You just don't get it. That's fine. Let me help you. You know, let me show you. And that that's what we need to do, I think, as a society and as a planet. Like, just be there for each other. Be there for the people that don't understand what you're going through. Be there for them so they can be there for you. And I think that's what's helped me get through most of my hurdles with family, friends, all the rest. Especially family. Because a lot of my traumas come from my family, as you said before. And it takes a great deal of understanding to know that they weren't hurting me on purpose. They never did. They're just doing what they thought was correct. That's not their fault.
So there's been some pretty mic droppy type moments in our conversations over the last couple of months. And I think one of the core things for me was when I was talking about my journey, Cole mentioned to me that for me, he thought it was about forgiveness. And then he said this insane thing, ultimately, you're forgiving yourself for being yourself.
That's what everybody's doing, though. That's, my God, if that's not like a core truth, then what is, you know?
On my gene keys, it says that my top thing is forgiveness. It's like forgiveness / creation, which is, I could not express myself more clearly than that. And that's what I wanted to say is on the other side of this, on the other side of that wall of trauma, of forgiving that, has been creation at a level unprecedented to me. You know, I mean, I faced psychosis, and on the other side of psychosis was a mind-blowing multimedia company and ideas I couldn't even have comprehended. I wanted to start a podcast, you know, when I was 26, and I had nothing to say. And then it just started coming after I faced all that trauma. Then there was too much to say. Then there were too many things I had to say. So it's like on the other side of forgiving ourselves for being ourselves is ourselves, literally more of what we've yearned for and wished for. Okay, so I've got a really interesting question for you around this idea of deeper self-creation. Can you tell me, what did it feel like to be Chloe, and what does it feel like to be Cole?
Oh, good question.
Yay, we got there. And can you talk to me about that bridge, because that's the bridge we're talking about now. It's ongoing. All of us are constantly in a state of forgiveness and creation. But the cool thing with you is you have a really, really clear example of what it was, what it felt like, and what it feels like now. And what was the journey like? Who did you have to become at those stages? I mean, just even from the outside, what's really beautiful about you is you really, for me, embodied feminine energy. A lot of the time I look at you and I see a female. I know that makes no sense on a physical level. That's not what I mean. I mean, energetically, you're so in who you are. You've really embodied that calling. That Chloe shines through, like she has space now to be who she is. Because perhaps the irony and paradox is right. When she was the full body, she wasn't there because something felt like it wasn't quite right.
For me, Chloe is still, I think, just full of fear, you know, full of fear. And she had a strength that was cultivated through fear. So I had to be strong for myself and for everyone around me. I had to protect them from whatever I had to protect them from. There's so many things. So yeah, Chloe was full of fear and anger and resentment and, you know, all those things. But also love. A lot of love there, but it was being swallowed by all these other things. And then I found Cole. And at the beginning of my transition, I had an extremely hard time, actually. Cole was all those things as well. I couldn't differentiate the difference. You know, so for me, Chloe and Cole, I mean, you know, we're obviously the same person, which is me, but Cole was lost in that. You know, it didn't feel right. My transition didn't feel right. I knew that it was the right path, but it didn't feel right because I had this image of who I wanted to be as a man that was cultivated from a fear. So it was built around protection and strength. So, you know, I was like muscly and just not violent or aggravated or anything like that, but quite guarded. And essentially, I would say it would be my feminine and masculine form. And then I realized, I mean, I lived in that space for a while, and it was destroying me. Like, I would cry myself to sleep, just feeling wrong, like not feeling right. Even though I'd started the transition, it just didn't. I was like, what is wrong? What is wrong with me? You know, this isn't correct. Like, I still feel lost. And then I hit this place where it was more or less a choice, like a decision. And I just said, no. I just need to be me. And whatever that feels inside. And it was like all of that fear just fell away. Like, it just crumbled. And then I just saw me as I am now. Or as I was then. Yeah, and then I realized that with the help of my psychologist, I realized that Cole is able to be a big brother for my inner child, you know? So in those memories that hurt so much, all my traumas, I can come in as Cole and cradle myself as a small child, as a small girl, and be there. Just be there. And just, it's okay. You know, like, I'm allowed to feel all these things. Chloe's allowed to be scared. So is Cole. Like, that, but like, both my masculine and feminine are together being scared, you know? But it's like, now that I have that balance now, they're not alone. Whereas before I was trying to force them together to become one thing when they're not meant to be one thing. They're meant to be, you know, side by side, balanced on either end of the seesaw.
What does it feel like to feel like you now?
Holding is what it feels like. Like, it's funny, and I'd say the sentence that ultimately became our friendship was that the more that I become a man, the more feminine I feel. In that, I've become myself. You know, I feel more feminine now than I ever have in all of my life. But I also feel that masculinity too. And they are embracing each other. You know, as I can embrace myself now. It's been a long journey, and it's been hard, but that's the ultimate, I guess.
I mean, I think it's the most beautiful thing in the world. When I first met you, and you were 1 month into your transition, so I guess I never met Chloe. I only met Cole, even though Cole was just beginning his journey. I can absolutely vouch for there was a defense wall there. You know, we couldn't, and I was in a heavier space. Like, it was just a match, you know, and it took us about a year, and we chatted here and there, every so often. And I think when both of us were maybe ready to take the next step into an even deeper level of our feminine energy, is when we actually got to connect properly. And the journey of watching you has been really beautiful because it has been a softening, you know, and the huge irony in what we've experienced as a toxic masculine world is that, you know, the irony of and paradox of becoming the most feminine you could be by becoming a man. So I want to talk a little bit about choice and the nature of choice in relationship to core truth, because actually choice is huge. It's all about choice, and it's all about strength of choice to make such big, I guess we call them quantum leaps, so huge steps into who we are. I think my kind of most recent kind of core truth example was that I made a choice to step many years ago into a huge sense of belonging when I was living in a very judgmental place, and internally hugely judgmental. And I made a choice to basically never go back to that part of me that was that frightened that I would allow myself to live in judgment as opposed to belonging. And it was that choice that left me kind of floating on water for a week while I waited for a house that landed this house that we all now live in, which is an incredible expression of belonging. But I had to I copped it for a month, just facing the worst expressions of people just rejecting who I was and saying I was weird and saying that I didn't belong here. It was an expression of judgment of how I didn't belong. So choice is a huge deal in this. And some of the things you said, to make a choice to know yourself truly, like an active choice, and also to accept yourself for who you are and what you are. And you told me that in relationship to a story about your family again. And just fully accepting that and fully loving that and fully choosing that. So there was a really cool example of this. We were at a local cafe and we were sitting at a table, which will be like marked in solid stone now from now on until eternity. This table, basically, Cole said, if this phone, like his phone, were the truth of who I was, then the entire cafe that we were sitting in was the storm of doubt in which I lived in, which was 1,000,000% accurate. That was not an exaggeration. And I mean, I'm still, that's the journey I'm on, to embody that truth. And some of the things you said there were, I was like, well, how do I embody truth? And you said you just sit here at the table and you tell yourself it's okay to sit here. Stop searching outside of yourself for answers. In that place of searching outside of yourself for answers, you're living up to everyone else's expectations of who you should be, but you don't find your own happiness there. And we basically, I went through a sort of he interrogated me at some level, and
as I do,
as he does, and we got to this place that the truth feels profoundly different. When you grab it, you know what it feels like. You just have to hold your finger on that truth and just keep holding your finger on that. And, eventually that storm of doubt subsides.
I'm listening back to this and I'm like, wow, that's really good advice.
Yeah, so I was taking notes the whole time.
Yeah. One of the many things I'm just say things. It's like I'm a microphone for something else. I don't know. It's nice hearing all this stuff back though.
I mean, that was profound. Again, what you just said. Can I just say that's kind of the point though? And that's what we're kind of getting to, is we're all microphones for something else. We're all, that truth that is who we truly are is the microphone.
Yeah. It's your higher self, right? Your higher self is not your higher self. It's just yourself. If you're going to put a name on it, it's higher self.
I mean, I've never even, again, that was another moment where I was like, what? I've never thought of it like that, but that's incredible. I don't even feel like I need to ask you a question about firm choices. I just feel like you are firm choices. Like you just live in that. That's just who you are. You are a firm choice.
So I just remember I was at this rave party and I had MDMA. And the party was supposed to be in the bush. It was supposed to be in nature. But because of the fires that we had, it couldn't be in nature. So they did it in a warehouse instead. And, I just was really looking forward to being in nature and in that safe space and to reconnect with the earth and just nature just holds a certain love that you can't get anywhere else. It's like this non-judgmental, undefying, undeniable, you know. Anyway, me and my friends, we went to the warehouse party, and I remember being in there and just thinking, oh my God, I feel so uncomfortable. I don't feel safe in here. This is not what I wanted. I don't, like, even though there were people hugging and stuff, I just was like, no, this isn't right. I don't feel the love. I wanted to be in nature. And I sat down and I started having a panic attack. I was like, I can't do this. This is, and when you're on MDMA, everything is heightened. So it was horrible. And something in my head just went, no, this is okay. You don't need to search outside of yourself for that safe space. You can create it for yourself. It's in here. You just need to hold it. And I just went, okay. And I did. And it was as easy and as complicated as that. And then I sat there and I did a meditation for a couple of minutes. And I was fine again. And I just realized that I held that safe space, and I could always hold that safe space. If I cultivated that from nothing, seemingly nothing, then I could do that for everything. That was my power. I was looking for the safety outside. I was looking for the love outside, to get it from nature and the trees and the people around me and things like that, when all I had to do was take it from inside. Because that's, if it comes from nature and other people, where do you think it comes from in them? It comes from inside them, right? So why would I not have that inside? So I took it and I did that. And that was the first choice that I made that changed the rest of my life. And that was only last year. And now I know that power is inside of me. If I can hold a safe space for myself in a place where I feel most feared, I can hold that space anywhere. Even right now. And another example, when people feel like they need an outside grounding force. In a meditation, you imagine yourself rooting into the earth. I did a meditation the other day that was surrounding my traumas, and my teacher told me to, they started going through a guided grounding with me, and I just said, no, I've got this. It's okay. I am my grounding force. I am that beacon. It's like I am the South and the North Pole. And you are too. You just have to realize it. Once you realize it, nothing can touch you. Like, you are your strength, and you are your weakness, and you are your grounding force, and you are your safe space. It's not outside of you. It's all in there. You just have to take it. That's the power of a choice.
So amazing. When I first had this podcast idea come to me, what I saw was this really condensed energy. I saw this image of really black energy, really tight. And then I saw this arrow going to kind of a looser, softer energy. And there's kind of these pivotal moments in your life where when you really address these big parts of yourself, you basically, on the other side is supernova. You're going to go supernova on the other side. So what is on the other side is this huge sense of awe.
When you said, you go supernova, and then on the other side of it is what? This profound, an explosion of wisdom and self. Yes? I disagree. I think on the other side, it's just like at least for me anyway, it's just there I am. So that's the way I see it. I don't really see it any other way. It's just, hey, I'm here. I've always been here. You just never saw me.
That was really cool. Many years ago, as I was healing out of psychosis, this book started falling out of the sky into my head. Though I don't know where it came from, and I wasn't trying to write a book. I was meant to be writing speeches for Toastmasters. And what started coming through month by month was this amazing poetry about how each moment of love connects us to the ecosystem, about how we see fear from a place of curiosity, about how freedom is in the way we imagine things. And those pieces and passages were my guiding light out of psychosis. And I'd heard nothing like it in my life. And I know it was uniquely carved out of my own experiences. And at the very end of all those chapters was this chapter about purpose, about how our everyday lives are the stuff of the stars. The energy that we experience in our everyday lives is the beauty of the energy we experience when we look out at the most beautiful nebulas and star systems. And, you know, I've had so much fascination with physics and gravity and time. So embedded in that experience of such compression that you experience in a mental illness was the explosion of a deep, deep sense of purpose, unlike anything I had lived before. And everything that I now live was what was contained in all that compressed energy. And to live it, it feels astounding. And I can only imagine that the more and more I walk forward and let go of truths that perhaps were not mine and are not aligned to who I am, my core truth, my core energy, I can only imagine it'll just feel like more and more space.
So I feel like a lot of outside pressure from, society in an entirety, family, friends, whatever, what have you, whatever. There's a lot of judgment against people who are working on themselves. And I live this quite regularly with some of my own family members where they want me to have a good life, the beauty of life. And my mum says to me, you're 31 now, you should have this and that, and you need to start making choices, and which is ironic because I've been making choices, and just because they're not the ones that she wants for me, that makes them wrong, and then it brings us to this place where time, as an outward, like a linear thing, is what matters to people, which I mean, I don't want to say it's incorrect, because who am I to say it's incorrect, but I feel like that belief system is negative and void, because you did a podcast earlier about time being internal, and I didn't understand what it meant. I listened to it, I had no idea. We've had conversations, and I'm like, yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand it. And I had a conversation with a friend this week.
Living by the clock. Living by the clock. Nature's time. Just plugging it a little.
I had a conversation with a friend this morning that solidified that for me. We were talking about grief, and they felt a pressure that, they'd lost a friend, and even in 20 years later, they still felt bad that they felt okay now. And I kind of sat back and I thought, what does 20 years have anything to do with that? Like, how do you put a measure on something like that? And that's when it hit me. I was like, the time for healing is internal. It really is. And you can't define that in years or months or decades, or whatever you're gonna, whatever form you want to use. Because you can't say, okay, in 20 years I'm gonna find my core truth. Yeah, it doesn't work. You have to just surrender to it, and then surrender to the internal clock that you have. And I think that the quicker that you surrender to it, the easier it becomes. And time doesn't hold a boundary anymore, as it shouldn't. I'm 31. I don't have a career path. I don't have a house. I don't have anything really, but I have myself. And that's more than many of the 31-year-olds I can say. And I feel like that's so much bigger than a house. Got my own house right here.
Ridiculous. Shouldn't be allowed. Sentences like that, my God. The whole time, I have to make a trailer for this podcast, and the whole time I'm listening out for the trailer bits, and it's like the whole thing. Every time you speak, you just mic drop at the end.
I mean, if you have a spare mic, I can literally mic drop for your trailer. Just drop it.
That would actually make sense. So I'm gonna end with with something that I responded to Cole with at that table of truth.
This is the table of truth too, right?
This can also be the table of truth.
Yeah. You take the table of truth with you, and you just unpack it. Okay, I'm going to put this out there.
So if I say that I am my core truth, then I am telling the universe, I am love, I am God, I am all powerful. And that is what it is, to own our core truth to the universe. Mm-hmm. That's what we're saying. We're saying that we are God. Is there anything else that you want to say about this topic? About what do you want to share?
What came to mind is, this is Ella. Thank you for listening to the emotional series of the Atlas of Consciousness. See you next time.
So good. My name's been Cole Jones, and I'm open to any future conversations about core truth. If you'd like any of my mic drop wisdom, I can offer that to you. I'll link all of my contact details in the show notes. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Ella is the best interviewer I've ever come across.
I am, it's true.
Thanks for coming. It's been this has been amazing. Like this is one of my favorite ones, because it's tying in my passions of like being truly who you are to the love of the universe and like all the big stuff, That's what it all just comes down to, that, like this core essence of who we are and owning it. This has been the Atlas Emotional series. Thank you for taking your own journeys on right into core truth, and wherever you are, if you're about to go supernova, you've got this. And you've got this because you're here with us now. And you can reach out to us anytime. It's a big, big journey. But on the other side is just more of who you are.
The journey is as big as you are. Don't forget that.
Okay, I'll see you again soon. Love you all. Bye-bye.